It's the worst nightmare of an air traveler, a plane crash. It's worse if the crash could have been prevented. And if you later find that the greed of an airline company and the complicity of a government cost the lives of hundreds of people. We are talking about the Boeing case. What most of us feared has come true. The preliminary report into the Ethiopian Airlines crash is out, and all fingers are being pointed at Boeing. Let's first tell you what the investigators have found so far. The plane was fit to fly, but once it took off, it nosedived, not once, not twice, but several times. The pilots tried their level best to save the plane. They followed all procedures recommended by Boeing, but despite their efforts, it crashed.
The initial findings of the investigation on the basis of initial information gathered during the course of investigation, the following facts have been determined. Number one, the aircraft possessed a valid certificate of airworthiness. The second one, the crew obtained the license and qualifications to conduct the flight. And third, the takeoff roll appeared very normal. And the fourth one is the crew performed all the procedures repeatedly provided by the manufacturer, but was not able to control the aircraft.
Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed last month, minutes after takeoff. All 157 people on board were killed. This is the second time in 6 months that a Boeing 737 MAX 8 plane had crashed. Questions were raised, parallels were drawn. Was the Ethiopian crash similar to the Lion Air crash in Indonesia just a few months ago? That was in October 2018. Lion Air flight JT610 crashed into the sea near Indonesia. All 189 passengers on board were killed. Now the similarities are evident.
It's very clear similarity with the Lion Air accident because number one, it's the same airplane model, brand new airplane. In our case, less than 5 months in service. I think it's similar with the Lion Air airplane also.
The Ethiopian Airlines crash prompted airlines around the world to ground the Boeing 737 MAX 8 plane. They were grounded in India too. Boeing was blamed for withholding information. The charge is that Boeing did not tell the pilots about a new safety feature on the 737 MAX. The manual that comes with the new Boeing aircraft allegedly did not mention that when the plane's computer detects a stall, it automatically triggers a response, like lowering the nose of the plane. It goes down. Investigators suspect that this is the reason why the plane crashed. While this is just a preliminary report, Boeing has been asked to review this aircraft control system. But demands for a class action lawsuit against Boeing are also growing. A class action lawsuit is where one party represents a group of people, a class, and it goes to court against a common defendant, in this case, Boeing. Families of victims of the Lion Air crash say that both these crashes, Lion Air and Ethiopian, must be treated as one. They're demanding accountability from Boeing for the loss of more than 300 lives.
Similar planes, the Boeing 737 MAX, similar problems with the sensor and the MCAS, similar flight patterns where the nose is going down and then up and down and then up as the pilots fought the MCAS, and finally, similar steep dive that was fatal. So that's the big difference. Lion Air pilots could not have known about the MCAS, and Ethiopian Air pilots should have known about the MCAS.
It is clear Boeing must answer some tough questions, but America's aviation watchdog, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, should also be put in the dock. They too must be made to answer some questions. Why did the FAA allow the Boeing 737 MAX 8 to fly? At the moment, all American-made aircraft are subjected to testing and evaluation that is approved by the US Congress. On the face of it, it's great. But this evaluation is like an open book exam. What happens here? Boeing handles much of the testing and evaluation of their aircraft. The FAA just supervises this exam. So Boeing is basically testing its own planes. The regulator is watching. How can we then expect Boeing to not cheat? The fact is that Boeing has gotten used to cheating and getting away with it. A large PR effort and lobbying allows Boeing to fly under the radar all the time. The relationship between US presidents and Boeing is hardly metaphoric. Boeing literally ferries American presidents in a modified Boeing 747, better known as the Air Force One. Ties between Boeing and the current US president, Donald Trump, run deep. Trump is an aviation enthusiast and once owned the Trump Shuttle airline. In its 3-year-long existence, this airline was in close contact with Boeing. Trump also used a personal Boeing 757 before he assumed office in January 2017. Trump's connection with Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg is not new either. Trump had personally negotiated with Muilenburg to try and lower the cost of a future version of the US presidential aircraft. Then in July last year, Boeing won a $3.9 billion contract to replace 2 Air Force One jets. If signposting is anything to go by, then Trump's preference for Boeing has been more than apparent. The US president has used Boeing products and sites as backdrops for major presidential announcements. In July last year, Donald Trump used his visit to a Boeing plant in St. Louis to talk about the impact of his tax overhaul bill. But Trump isn't alone in this Boeing boat. There are other top White House officials who have close ties with the aircraft manufacturer. Take Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan, for instance. He worked for Boeing for 31 years before joining the Pentagon. Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, has been nominated by Boeing to join its board of directors. Boeing's stature makes it a natural choice for American administrations to cozy up to. It is the U.S.'s second largest defense contractor. The company received $104 billion in unclassified defense contracts between 2014 and 2018. It is no surprise then that the Trump administration has repeatedly urged its allies to buy Boeing products. But this is what all the cozying up leads to. 2 plane crashes, 346 lives lost, lives that could have been saved. Whose fault is it, we ask again, the manufacturer or the regulators? The important question is, what really was done to prevent such a thing from happening? If the right procedure had been put in place at the right time, the world wouldn't have seen the death of 346 innocent people.
29th October 2018. Lion Air Flight 610 travelling from Jakarta to Pangkal Pinang with 189 souls on board. 13 minutes after takeoff, the plane lost contact with the air traffic control and crashed into the sea, killing all 189 people. 10th March 2019. Ethiopian Air Flight 302 travelling from Addis Ababa to Nairobi with 157 people on board. 6 minutes after takeoff, the plane reports trouble and requests a return to the airport. But before the plane could make a return, it crashed. All 157 passengers on board dead. Both the incidents hauntingly similar. An eerie coincidence? Sadly, no. Both the incidents had one very common factor: the plane itself. Boeing 737 MAX 8. 2 crashes in less than 6 months for a new model was highly suspect. So what had caused 2 new jets to just drop out of the sky and crash? The reason? A faulty sensor on the Boeing 737 MAX 8. A system that was intended to save the plane from stalling and crashing malfunctioned and caused the planes to lose control and crash. A system malfunctioning on one aircraft can be acceptable as a technical error. But the same system having the same trouble again was no coincidence. Boeing claimed that they were unaware of any technical fault when they sold the planes to different airlines. Even if one accepts that, the question remains. What happened after the first crash of Lion Air Flight 610 in October 2018? The aircraft manufacturer was informed about the faulty system, and what did they do? Well, not much actually. The fleet of MAX 7378 was not grounded. There were no special trainings for pilots to be equipped with the erroneous system and how to tackle it. No special systems installed. Just a statement that they instructed pilots to override the faulty sensor. 189 lives had been lost. People were still reeling from this loss when Ethiopian Air Flight 302 crashed on 10th of March. Same aircraft, same model, same technical error. 157 innocent people lost their lives. Many countries across the globe took notice and grounded the Boeing 737 MAX 8 fleet. Boeing stopped the sale of any new aircraft till further notice. Well, this all seems too little, too late. 346 lives had been lost. Lives that could have been saved. Bureau Report, Wion, World is One.